Tony Pachicchio.
Here.
Janice Chamberlain. Here. Sarah Smith.
Here.
Deborah Holcomb. Here. Tim Rourke.
Here.
Morgan Donaldson. Gregory Miller.
Here.
Alan Ayers.
Here.
Nick Lanza.
Here.
Kathleen Tonry. Here. Arthur Christensen. Julie Marshall. Yeah.
We're going to start tonight's meeting a little different than we usually do. First of all, we have two new members from Mansfield, and I'd like to welcome them on behalf of myself and the board, Kathleen Tonry and Greg Miller. And I don't know if either of you would like to take a moment and say anything. If you do, now's the time.
Sure, because I haven't met everybody, but I've just met some of you. I'm delighted to be here, and I just wanted to let you know that my husband and I have been members of the Mansfield community for 20 years, and my oldest daughter graduated from E.O. Smith last year, and my son will be a freshman here next year, and then my youngest daughter will be entering E.O. Smith in the fall of 2028. Which seemed an impossible long way away just a couple of years ago. So I'm a tenured professor of English at UConn, and my scholarship and research concern medieval literature. So if you have any questions that are very old, you can let me know. But for many years, I was also one of the faculty directors of the Writing Center at UConn, which in which role I worked with faculty and students across the entire curriculum. And one of the things I did there was roll out an initiative that thought about multilingualism and racial equity called Racism in the Margins. I also founded and am part of the leadership team of really active nonprofit right now, focusing on our immigrant community here in Tolland and Windham counties. And at UConn, I also have served on the executive committee of our faculty union. And at E.O. Smith, I've been a member of the AI planning team, which has been really interesting work and well led by Dave Tanner. I see over there. So I'm honored to have the support and the trust of so many voters here in Mansfield, and I'm really looking forward to my work over the course of my term. I'm eager to extend the good work this body has done and to address the goals of transparency and responsiveness that we all expect of our elected bodies. I'm really looking forward to just learning, too, more about the school and more about this board, and also to contributing whatever skills I can to our kind of common cause of continuing the good work of E.O. Smith. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you. My name is Greg Miller, and we've been in Mansfield since 2009. And likewise, I'm honored to be here. I'm grateful, and I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer for many years, and in that role, I specialize in photographing strangers. So I've met and talked to many people over the years, and I consider that a privilege. And I've also I've been a teacher, a photography teacher at the International Center for Photography for 25 years. I was among the founding photographers that were for the documentary program at the International Center for Photography. And there I've been able to, I've also had the privilege to work with individuals from high school to 80-year-olds, people that are pivoting their careers, and it's a very, very wide gamut of people, and that's also been an incredible privilege, and I've learned a lot, to be honest. And so I also, more importantly, I'm the father of two incredible daughters, and one is alumni of E.O. Smith, and she had a great run, and she's successful, and we're proud of her. And I also have my youngest is a 7th grader at MMS. So I have, once and future, E.O. Smith students. So anyway, I'm very happy to be here, and thank you so much.
All right, we're going to go to the election of officers. As you know, every 2 years following the municipal elections, we reconstitute the board and elect new officers. And I am the current vice chair. I will preside over this portion of the meeting on the election of a new chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. Once the officers are elected, the new chair will step in and preside over the balance of the meeting. So we will be conducting the voting based on the weighted voting relative to the 3-member towns. And I guess I would open the floor right away to nominations. I'll start with nominations for the position of board chair. Nick.
I'd like to nominate Deborah Holkern to be chair of the Region 19 Board of Education.
Second.
With any other nominations? We'll close nominations. I would prefer to just go to the vote right now and then go. So, Deborah, do you want to say anything, or you just?
I would be very willing to assist in this role. At this point, I think that I can put the time in. I think that's the biggest factor right now, is being able to put the time into it, and happy to be in that role.
So, hearing close nominations, and I guess I need to vote. Someone moves to close nomination.
So
Okay, second on that. And we will now go to a vote. All in favor of electing Deborah Holgren as board chair, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Congratulations, Deborah. We now move to the position of vice chair, and I open the floor for nominations from the floor.
I'd like to nominate Tony Paticchio.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, get a motion to close the nomination. Yeah. Second?
Second.
Janice? Okay. All right, all in favor of Tony Paticchio as vice chair, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We will now move to the position of board treasurer. Take nominations from the floor. Nick.
I'd like to nominate Janice Chamberlain to be board treasurer for the Region 19 Board of Education.
I'll second that.
Okay. And any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I can motion to close nominations. Tim, a second? Okay. Okay, so all in favor of Janice Chamberlain as board treasurer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and now we'll move to the position of board secretary. Take nominations. Tim.
Nominate Alan.
Second.
Second, okay. Any other nominations? I'm going to have a motion to close the nomination.
So moved.
You'll get the second.
I'll take a third.
All right. We'll now move to a vote. All in favor of appointing, electing Alan Iris as the board secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So we will now seat the new officers and we'll move seats a little bit.
I might have to wear a suit. Well, thank you for your confidence. All right, moving on. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak tonight? With a lot of people out there. All right, not seeing anybody who is wanting to speak, we'll move on to reports. All right. Committee reports. We can start with personnel if you're.
Yeah. Personnel met prior to this meeting. We had quite a long agenda, but one of the things we were talking about was the superintendent's evaluation framework. We already have something in place, but we are also looking at a written component for that. So we're working on that, and the personnel committee will come back together again in the next month. We also wanted to wait for new members to see who is going to be sitting on different committees to participate in that process. So we also will have a future administrative job posting starting in January for one of our assistant principals, and who is retiring. And then we talked about some building and grounds issues and some other things. So that's it.
Any questions? Right, policy committee, did you meet?
We did. We met. We have the student discipline policy in front of you for discussion item tonight. You'll see that in the packet. We also discussed the cell phone policy at great length. There was a draft put forward to the policy committee. We went through it every line. And we're also discussing the AI policy. Cell phone policy is something we need to get done by the end of the school year. So that is top priority. I don't know if there's any other policy members. Sarah, if you want to add anything.
I think that covers it. Thank you, Nick.
Or Sharon.
All right, any questions for policy? Right, finance committee,
Finance did not meet before this meeting.
building committee, Tim.
Building did meet just before this meeting, as usual. Our two major topics continue to be the long-term homes for our satellite program, Star and Depot, as well as current HVAC needs driven by some air quality survey that was done recently. So from a Star Depot facility perspective, I don't know if anyone got to the open house just before Thanksgiving. It was great. I was glad to go meet the staff and students and see the facility, which is currently a sort of a temporary home at the old Enid School. We are working to extend that as best we can. It's not a bad facility, you know. We're in my segue to my next point. We're also looking to engage the town of Mansfield and really get an understanding of their outlook on the building. It was obviously decommissioned as a school. We want to align. Are they reconsidering potentially extending its use? Again, not a bad facility for us. And also discussing potentially other sites or facilities in town. So we're looking to arrange a meeting with Mansfield town manager for that discussion and really open up our options there. So trying to keep things open as we discover we have limited candidates. HVAC, we're still maybe digesting is the word, right? The scope of the estimate we've received for the work to address the current HVAC, issues of the school. And so we're trying to kind of, as much as our current crew continues to work through like the small bits, the big chunks are still out there. We're trying to keep a broader view on those dollars that we're looking at and how we best spend them, and prioritization and pace and time and what can we extend. So that continues to be our work in that area. But those are the two the ongoing topics we have.
Just for the sake of our newer members, we're looking at potential $35 million worth of renovations to the school to just bring it up to what was expected in the report that we got. It's a little overwhelming. It's going to take time for us to come up with an appropriate response to that. And the one thing I would say, I've also visited the open house down at Vinton, and our personnel there, they love that site. They'd love it if they could stay there. It meets all their needs right now. with the exception of some things that need to be updated or renovated or whatever. That may not be possible for them, but they were definitely working on the issue of letting them be there. And it was delightful. I would say that Steve may have to arrange for any board member to visit that in the future to visit the program. It's probably one of our best PR sites. It's just a very jolly, happy place. All right, curriculum.
Curriculum has not met. We're planning on having a meeting. So we've had a couple of dates on the calendar, but now that we kind of are where we are waiting for the committee to be updated with new members.
EDJ.
Okay, EDJ, which is Equity, Diversity, and Justice, did not meet. We are, Sharon, I imagine at this point, we're probably looking at January.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a couple of ongoing things we have to do every year, revisit and just review our guiding principles, determine, well, first of all, to re-engage ourselves and determine and grade ourselves on how we're doing, I think, and then we will, identify issues we want to pursue through the rest of the year. So that's what we are.
All right, we're on to student reports. Theo?
Yes,
Yes, and is Olivia here?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. Okay, Theo, can you represent the students?
Oh, yeah. So we've been off to a pretty good start so far this year. School spirit has been kind of high as the football team just got a win against our rival Tolland. That's been pretty exciting for everyone, I think. There's tryouts coming up for winter sports. So everyone's gearing up for that. And yeah, so on a different note, the composting and the cafeteria has been going pretty well. I think students are a big fan of the new metal trays and metal utensils. I think those are big upgrades and they're definitely more sustainable. Let's see. The grading policy has been pretty positive for students overall so far. Some teachers have expressed some kind of confusion about learning trackers and things like that, but overall I think it's been going pretty smoothly. Students are preparing for midterms, and the student center and the peer tutoring is becoming like I think the program is really growing and developing really nicely. We had a meeting, like a conference at the beginning of the year, where all the peer tutors in the school came to the LMC to discuss. We went through stations about like how we can improve tutoring, like how we can work with AI, tablet tutoring, like a bunch of different stations. So yeah, it's going well in terms of that. And I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, any questions for Theo?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What are we working on in our meeting?
Oh yeah.
Thanks for the prompt.
Yeah. For the superintendent's advisory committee, we're working on a couple of proposals for a conference for the NEAS conference, which is basically a bunch of schools send representatives to Clark University to look about presentations about equity related topics. And we're working on two proposals right now, one about microaggressions and one about the N-word, that we're going to be working with students on the committee and maybe in the equity committee, I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
To send to that conference. And we're kind of refining we did presentations last year for the teach-in on those two topics. So we have a pretty good background and we're excited for that.
Great.
It's awesome.
So we have a special student report?
We do. And actually, I think the student report is first. So we're going to, Brady, can you get that presentation squared away? So we have a special student report with Hassana Davis, Kalyani. I'm going to mess up your name, Kalyani. Help say it for me first so I don't mess it up.
The first name or
Nope, your last name.
Tihaya?
Tihaya.
Yeah.
And they're going to present a presentation that they shared. Yes, that is the one. That they shared with students, taking them through the Thrive Guide. I'm not going to steal any of their thunder because they are amazing and can speak for themselves. And here is, they're not something.
Good evening, everyone. As Ms. Knorr already said, I'm Hassana Davis. I am in 12th grade here at EO, and I am a part of the Equity Council.
I'm called Kaliani Tihaya. I'm also a senior and I'm also part of Equity Council.
All right, so as I go through and explain the mission of the Equity Council and why we're here today, Kaliani and I are going to be passing out a sheet of paper. So I would like you guys all to think back on a time where you felt like you belonged in an environment. So please jot down a few adjectives, how you felt. Now, the Equity Council is a completely student-led group here at EO Smith meant to make material change. So we work through collaboration with staff, administrators, teachers, and our peers in order to incorporate the student voice into the decision-making process here at EO Smith. Okay, so before we get into the Thrive Guide, I would like to pass out our mission statement and some of the activities that we conduct. The Equity Council has aligned not only our activities, but our mission statement and our projects this year with the Board of Ed and Region's purpose. And we are very, very excited to share this with you guys. So I want to say a big thank you for allowing us to come here and take up a little bit of your time. And it's definitely going to be worth it. So as we found in the 2021 Region 19 District Report, thank you. The Subcommittee for Equity, Diversity, and Justice states respect for diverse viewpoints and experiences, expanding teacher/staff diversity, and contributions to BIPOC individuals and communities in the curriculum, ensuring equitable access and opportunity for all students, and actively working to eradicate discrimination and intolerance. Now, what's also stated on this Region 19 report is the conduction of an equity audit and student participation in curricular and co-curricular offerings here at EO Smith. So the goal, as you guys already know, is to achieve equity through maximizing participation, performance, and experiences of all your students. All right, we do that. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. So we like to guide all of our initiatives and projects in research and numbers that we can see have made actual progress. We are here today to discuss belonging and how that affects academic inequity at EO Smith. And so we want to share a couple of studies with you that support the fact that belonging in an academic environment improves academic performance and overall school culture. In 2021, a study of 475 Black and Latino middle schoolers, grades about 7 through 9, conducted or concluded that a strong sense of belonging in 7th grade predicted faster academic growth over time and fewer emotional and academic disturbances.
Additionally, through a lot of students last year through AP research were able to incorporate EO Smith's environment into their studies. And one of my studies actually looked at physics students' self-efficacy and interest in STEM and how that correlated to their interest in STEM careers. And what I noticed in my data was that high school female students had lower self-efficacy in physics and science classes, which then lowered their sense of belonging in the classroom and lowered their interest in STEM. So similar to these studies, these students, if they have a higher sense of belonging, they'll have higher motivation to go out and be interested in things like STEM and other courses. So channeling a sense of belonging is essentially very important to not only our future education aspirations, but also just taking classes and being involved in our environments.
And as you guys know, our Senator, Chris Murphy, is a strong advocate for belonging in schools and communities, noting in the National Strategy for Social Connection Act passed in 2023 was used to address America's loneliness epidemic and promote community connection, which is especially important in academic environments. Okay. Now, here we also are sharing more research that we've grounded our work in, research that we've used for our 2024 Professional Development Day here at E.O. Smith, just to show how important belonging truly is. And we want to really emphasize to you guys, this is based in research. And as I'm going to add, a lot of this research is conducted by professionals in the education field. For example, Cohen G.L. in 2022, Stanford professor notes that belonging is the science of creating connection and bridging divides. So through this, at E.O. Smith, we want to express the belief and potential of all of our students, emphasize story sharing and sharing our experience with each other, and affirming personal values.
I think it's especially important to emphasize positive reinforcement and also constructive criticism and feedback, because that can not only uplift a student, but also motivate them to continue pursuing and being involved in the environment.
Okay, now a little bit more data for you guys. Outside of the external data conducted by research professionals, the Equity Council has conducted our own data. In the year of 2024, we started a project on educational inequity with our wonderful advisors, Dr. DiLoretto and Dr. Lareau. We decided to conduct an audit or survey for data because, well, we already have the numbers, we have the statistics on paper, but as previously said, we want to emphasize the story sharing experience. That is how belonging is promoted. So as students, we designed and administered a survey to around or approximately 200 students here at E.O. Smith in order to capture experiences, how they felt, classroom environments, and E.O. Smith culture with belonging in academic environments.
We noticed a lot of geographical differences. For example, students in regions like Mansfield were taking more advanced classes, whereas regions such as Wellington and Ashford were taking less advanced classes. And this could be partly due to the fact that they're not aware of the opportunities given to the school. So part of our idea with the Thrive Guide is to incorporate and utilize our idea of giving awareness to these regions that are especially not aware of the opportunities that E.O. Smith provides, especially for freshman year.
Okay, so now we've shown you guys external research, our own student research that we've done on our peers. That is how the Equity Council came into fruition with the Thrive Guide. Now, there are a couple of other things that led to this process. For example, not only did we do a professional development day in 2024 on belonging, we also conducted one last year, which included interactive teacher activities, asking for suggestions, and overall capturing the environment that teachers have noticed in their own personal experiences in classrooms. We collected feedback from our participants and we followed up with them, as well as surveying the rest of our students in order to encourage underclassmen to join the Equity Council to help people foster belonging.
And what was especially critical was taking all that information we learned and also getting our own input from students from our Equity Council meetings to decide, what do we think freshmen need to know when they're coming into 9th grade? What do they need to know to succeed in high school, whether that's clubs, finding out how to enter the lunch line, even unlocking their lockers. Those questions were especially important for us to think about when I guess writing the Thrive Guide, especially in a student mind.
Of course. Yeah. The Thrive Guide focuses on both the social emotional aspect of the student experience at E.O. Smith, but also the academic experience. So what do I, as a senior, want your freshmen at E.O. Smith to know? Because we have counselors. They are going to get advice and they are going to be greatly guided. However, teachers, staff members here at E.O. Smith don't have student experience to really show the students here the ins and outs academically and socially at E.O. Smith. So with the Thrive Guide focusing on both parts, the goal is to successfully assimilate and help our freshmen feel like they belong in the culture and environment that we have here at E.O.
And this resource has already been implemented into our most recent class, the class of 2029, and we hope to improve it and also implement it into our upcoming grades.
Yes, we went over this a little bit, but the Thrive Guide included external input from teachers, students, and our guidance counselors, as well as our head chair that we have there. Additionally, we have placed the Thrive Guide in the Unit 3 resources at EO Smith to make sure it's completely accessible to not only the staff and future staff that are going to be teaching the Panther experience that we have here at EO, but as well as making it accessible to the students so that they have constant access to it online. The Thrive Guide is written in a student-centered voice and very friendly in order to let students know that this guide is easy, it's accessible, and it's not going to be too much of a hassle to look through.
We wanted students to be able to flip through it and figure out, okay, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to do it. We wanted to implement it in a way that was as easy and as successful as possible.
Okay, now, the Thrive Guide is a focus on belonging, but the Equity Council does plenty of other initiatives and projects in order to foster that feeling. For example, we do annual student-hosted club fairs where we have all the kids, or we have all the clubs come down into the LMC and have sign-up sheets. Sometimes their advisors are there, and those kids are there in order to spotlight their clubs, show that they exist, and welcome our new students in order to join activities and make new friends.
And Pure Natural Helpers also has during their freshman orientation, they have clubs available to mingle with. However, Equity Council does a great job having a club fair during school hours because not all freshmen can attend this orientation during the summer. So Equity Council being able to host a club fair annually gives any student who wants to come down the opportunity to have the advantage to interact with other students and join a club if they want. Whereas with freshman orientation, not all freshmen are there. And also, maybe you want to join as a 10th grader or 11th grader. Maybe there's a transfer student. So having this club fair is monumental for getting more engagement as well as a diversity of students.
Not only that, but we participate in the 5 for 5 challenge each year, which is a challenge based in research for the epidemic of loneliness, where students go around EO Smith and for 5 days straight, try to do something kind, help out a staff member, or overall foster friendship and belonging to make the culture of EO Smith feel more close-knit.
And lastly, with that, recently we've had the creation of the Thrive Guide, which was presented to the entire freshman class during Panther Experience, and we want to help support not only their academic belonging, but as well as their social belonging.
Yes, so to get this completely clear, the Thrive Guide, because EO Smith is a regional school and kids come here with different levels of preparedness and knowledge about the high school experience, the Thrive Guide is there to break that down and make it as easy as possible.
It's there as a reference for students to go back to anytime they want, whether they're in 9th grade or even as a senior.
All right, now, a part of the Thrive Guide that we've offered you guys was the opportunity to present to all of the freshmen in the Panther Experience. If you don't know, the Panther Experience is a program that we have for our freshmen in order to show them the ins and outs of EO Smith, what to do for this, what to do for that, and all the likes. So over the course of 2 weeks for 8 periods, we presented the Thrive Guide to every single one of our freshmen, offering interactive activities, offering advice, and a compilation of both graduate and upperclassmen giving their tips and tricks to thriving at EO.
We also had a really fun Q&A panel where a lot of students asked questions like, what's your favorite teacher? What's the fastest way to get to this class? What lunch do I have? And all these questions helped us not only reference back to the Thrive Guide and tell them it's in there, but also to answer those questions personally and tell them that they're not alone. These questions that they have are probably the same ones I had as a freshman too. So even in that case, they're fostering a sense of belonging by asking those questions and realizing they're not alone.
Right, and the most important part about me and Kalyani going into the Panther experience to talk to the freshmen was the storytelling experience. Yes, we can give them the Thrive Guide. Yes, we can put it in Canvas. But the point of us going in there is to see that they have upperclassmen who they can ask questions, will help them with whatever they need, and help them assimilate into the journey of transitioning in the high school. We really wanted to affirm to students that their personal beliefs were important, that they belonged, and that we expressed belief in their potential as freshmen, as well as the journey that they are going to take for the next 4 years of their life. All right. Now, before we end the presentation, I would like to say a special thanks to our directors, Dr. DeLaretto and Dr. Leroux, and even more special thanks to Dr. Leroux, who completely and fully embodies the concept of student leadership and student-oriented learning. The only way that the Equity Council can be a completely student-led group here at E.O. Smith is through advisors and staff members who support student leadership, our thought partners, and overall help us and lift us up in order to make E.O. Smith a student-led experience. Any questions?
Can we clap?
But this is fantastic. Really, the student voice aspect of it, I think, really stands out to me. You know, as soon as you open it, and I'm not a student, I haven't been for a while, but it's an entirely different flavor, right? To when you're reading it, it's not like okay, this is a kind of dry kind of document, right? It pulls you in, and it's very familiar, comforting, kind of written, and yeah, kudos, really, really, really nice work.
Thank you.
So I first of all want to thank you for the work you're doing. This is amazing. And I would welcome if the Equity Council or any of you feel that there are equity, diversity, and justice issues that we should be addressing at the board level, please let us know. You can send it through Sharon, or all of us are on the committee list. You can send it directly to me. I am currently the chair of that committee. We really welcome student voices, and you folks have been doing just an amazing job. I also want to know, can we get a copy of this slide presentation?
Oh, yeah. I would like to add on to what you said. We completely appreciate that. And the Equity Council is working on plenty of other projects in order to fulfill our mission statement. And so we are very interested in coming back to the Board of Ed in order to present and share with you the rest of our activities.
Yeah, we might. I mean, I would like to consider either us coming to you or you coming to the Equity, Diversity, and Justice Committee for one of our meetings. We'd really like to talk to you and pick your brains and just hear your ideas. We really would. Thank you.
Yes, I would just like to add something. Being a member of Equity, Diversity, and Justice, I would really appreciate having the students meet with us as we did once before. And between the three of us that showed up, Janice and Tony and I, at the end, they were really forthcoming with what was happening and what is on their minds. It was so helpful in instructing us, and your presence and your guidance would be greatly appreciated. And to get down to really the honesty of what it's like for the students, for them to feel comfortable. So thank you so much. I love the presentation.
Thank you.
Go ahead. This was terrific. I'm just going to second what everybody else said too. And thinking about having a sort of freshman next year, he's really going to appreciate this. And we'll read it actually too. I was wondering, what questions do you think freshmen have most? Because this is just being rolled out this year, or did freshmen have it this year? When you did your kind of Q&As with them, what was the question that you kind of didn't anticipate?
Okay, so the Thrive Guide just became enrolled into the Panther experience this year, so it is new.
Yeah.
both Kalyani and I can speak that the freshmen had a lot of good questions, but I would say one of the most common questions we had was about transportation for extracurriculars after school and sports and making those accessible to as many people as possible. So people were curious about if we do have that, where can they find it?
Yeah, a lot of students were interested in joining clubs or sports, and a lot of the questions focused on that. We gave out note cards exactly like we did with you guys, and it was basically just like, okay, write down any question you have, and we're going to answer it. And a lot of them, there were numerous actually that were like, okay, how do I join a sport? Or how, like, what if I don't have any friends in clubs? And we were just like, the Thrive Guide answers this. Like, this is amazing. And we're like, we'll tell you our own experiences.
Right. We also had a couple of kids ask about the rigor of certain classes here compared to the rigor of their classes from their feed in middle schools, which is, of course, an issue and one of the main reasons why we decided to develop the Thrive Guide. But that was also a popular asked questions because kids do like different levels of coursework, and they want to know how it compares to their middle schools and how they have different experiences in their middle school. So especially academically.
Yeah. And so the bus question was about like kind of access to after school activities and buses home. Yeah, I think that's really important. And it's so good that you were able to answer it. Thank you.
Nick, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a comment. I'm looking on page 16 under traditions, and I'm really glad that we still have the rooftop pool.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing to keep on pushing. As a recent alum,
Yeah,
it's
we
amazing.
have to say that on the tours. It's mandatory.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It should be mandatory. I think that's awesome. But I think seriously, I think that sort of stuff added in there speaks to how impactful I think this is. And I think you should be the whole council should be very proud of what you came up with. And I'm really happy to see that this is a resource now that everyone can go to, whether you're freshman, senior. I think it's awesome.
Touching on that between freshman and senior, during the process of developing the Thrive Guide, we did talk about making a Thrive Guide for each grade because, of course, you're going to have a different experience from freshman to sophomore to junior. So, for example, the junior year Thrive Guide would be about looking for colleges, but what is financial aid, all of the where to look for this, SATs, when is your SAT, college board, all of those different things that you have to deal with when transitioning from your sophomore to junior year. So we have talked about making one for each grade.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
I think this is probably the coolest presentation I've seen since I've been here. So a couple of things, like one is, did you have a lot of participation with like the Wellington and Ashford? I know like my son coming from Wellington, like, you know, having a grade of 40 to here is like a huge step. And those are the interesting things. And then one other thing is, so when I first came to the board, one of the things I was really hoping to get pushed forward was like late buses. Because when I was here, they had late buses. So you could stay after school and get a ride home at like 5 o'clock, things like that. You could stay for clubs and all that. But I think with the budget and that kind of went to the back burner. But it'd be really interesting if we had some sort of data that we could say the students really want this.
Yeah.
And then that makes it, you know, more student-centered and something we can put, you know, ahead.
Okay, your first question, participation amongst or in the Panther experience, I would say participation definitely varies depending on the size of that session. However, most of the kids were very well engaged, especially because of the activities that we provided, and we tried not to talk to them for the entire period. So that means activities, letting them talk to each other, asking them questions, them asking us questions, and vice versa, answering to sort of create more of a, I guess, a homey experience other than, oh, I'm an upperclassman and this is a lecture. Second question, or touch on data for transportation and how many kids would be interested in participating in a late bus. Last year, we did do our annual club fair, and part of our club fair was doing an informal survey of the kids who attended. So before leaving, we asked them questions like, is there a reason you're not in clubs, or is there anything stopping you, barriers, challenges, anything of the sort that is sort of stopping you from participating more in the E.O. Smith community. And for most kids, it was the fact that there was no late bus and those parents were.
Great. And a great name. I love the Thrive Guide. That's extra kudos for coming up with that.
I just want to say thank you very much. Reemphasize too that I really appreciate the fact that you were very considerate of Wellington students coming here, Ashford students coming here, being very different maybe than the Mansfield community. What are their, individual needs? That was very, very important to me. I also want to say, I am just like in awe of how professional this whole presentation is and how professional the two of you are and how you talk, you actually work off of each other so well. I mean, there is this like, I'm just like, I'm just in awe. I have to say that. I just don't know what else to say because I would never have been able to do this at your age. Never in a million years. So I'm really, really impressed with the professionalism and how well you've done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kudos to both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just on a final note, I don't know, like I've had an older brother who went through like EO Smith, and that's kind of the reason I knew a lot about the school coming in. But the reason we also created that Thrive Guide was like for those students who didn't have an older sibling, or like this was basically like their older sibling that they could rely on. So yeah, that's the note.
Even quicker note on Kalyani. I'm a transfer student here at EO Smith for my sophomore year, so transitioning can be particularly challenging.
Yeah.
As I didn't know about the different opportunities that EO Smith offered, or the types of classes, or summer programs, where to find this or where to find that. It's overwhelming. There's a lot that we offer, and so the Thrive Guide tries to encapsulate that. Okay. Yeah.
Good point.
Yes, amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, first, we have a tough act to follow. We have a teacher special presentation. Sean Sanderson. Somewhere.
That's really good.
Oh, Sean is one of our social studies teachers.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to our new board members and to our returning board members. Thank you for your support and your service to this learning community. Much appreciated. As was just mentioned, my name is Sean Santasier. I am a longtime social studies teacher here at EO Smith. I also, along with my social studies colleague, Matt Sevo, am an advisor to our Model UN group here at EO Smith. And I think this is my 25th year of Model UN. I'm curious to know, by a show of hands, of the people in this room, how many of you, by a show of hands, know what someone does at Model UN? Impressive. Impressive. We actually happen to have 3 Muners, as we like to refer to them, here tonight. And I'd like to put them on the spot. And I would like them to answer in their own words, what is it that we do at Model UN?
I would say that Model UN for me is the experience to not only learn about what's going on in the international politics of the world, but it's also the opportunity for students, not only at EO Smith, but everywhere in the United States and globally, get to express their interest in global politics and act accordingly. So during Model UN, we have committee sessions and we are representatives of countries. We argue on behalf of their stances, good or bad, depending on the country. And for me, that means a lot because I am not only learning, but expressing myself.
For me, it's all about like learning about a different perspective, because a lot of the times you may have your own beliefs, but when you're representing a country, you have to only think about the delegation. And there's going to be times where you have to be as diplomatic as possible while having conflicting views with another nation. So not only learning how to respect other perspectives, but you also have to learn how to come up with a solution. So it's not just about the problem, it's about coming up with a solution.
Yeah, a lot of Model UN, they tackle really important topics. Like there's human rights, there's women's issues, and there's like AI regulation and technology. And all of these things are so important for students to learn about because it's their future and what they're going to be tackling, like problems they will have to think about. And in Model UN, we actually have to come up with solutions. And I think a lot of times in schools, we learn about these problems, but we're not really actively trying to think about how to fix it. But with Model UN, we actually have to come together, draft a resolution, a solution, and vote. And there's that democratic procedure to it as well, that we can vote and we can work on these different ideals and try to pass these solutions. So.
Well said. So we do 2 simulations a year. Mr. Sivo and I can take absolutely no credit for what our students do. We do the administrative stuff, the registration, the incessant emails and phone calls. Our members spend their own time and energy preparing for these conferences. We do 2 a year, as I said. We just had our first conference last month. It's affectionately known as UCMUN, UConn Model UN. There's a lot of acronyms in Model UN. And our big Super Bowl, if you will, is held every March in New York City. It is known as NSBN, the National High School Model United Nations. It is the largest, most prestigious Model UN conference in the world. Okay. One of the reasons why I'm here tonight is because I would like to recognize Mia, who spoke last, and Hassan. So I would like them to stand. And at our most recent conference, which was the largest UConn Model UN conference yet in 25, 26 years of existence. It was over 500 students. And in each committee at UCMUN, a team of college students who are running this committee, they confer over the course of the 3-day conference, and they choose a best delegate within that conference. Mia was selected in her committee. How many people were in your committee, do you think?
50 people.
About 50 people, okay. What makes this extra special is that oftentimes award winners at a Model UN conference are taking a course in international diplomacy or politics or law. And it's their curriculum. They get class time to craft arguments and solutions where our students are doing this on their own. So I would like to give it up for Mia right now. There is also, beyond Best Delegate, there is one very, very, very special award, Most Outstanding Delegate. So this Most Outstanding Delegate is a delegate that is recognized not just within her own committee or his committee, okay, but other committees as well. And that award went to Hassana this year. which is again an incredible honor. And I want to recognize the both of them very, very. So keep sending us to New York City, and we appreciate your support. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Well done. All right, next up is our special report with Megan Magner, Director of Social Studies at Gustav. I'm not going to say that name right. Okay, thank you.
I count myself very lucky to be here tonight for having experienced this wonderful presentation from our students and the opportunity to meet the new members of the board. My name is Alphonse Gustav, and I am the head of World Language Departments. My task tonight is to present you the state of our program in world languages. I will start with saying that the Department of World Languages is made up of 8 teachers, 5 Spanish teachers, 2 French teachers, and 1 Latin teacher. We lost our German teacher last year. However, we still have 16 students taking German and earning credit for it. The chart that you can see on the smart board is a presentation of the progression of our courses. When we get freshmen from our sending middle schools, they either start at level 1, but as our student just shared with us, the student we get from our sending schools come to us with different level of preparations. Therefore, while some start at level 1, others are able to start at level 2 as freshmen. In 10th grade, we have some students who take level 2 of either French, Spanish, or Latin. However, some in 10th grade can already take level 3 courses. Level 3 college or level 3 honors. In 11th grade, they are able to take level 4 honors or AP Spanish, AP French, or AP Latin, which is the L480. In 12th grade, our students, those who elect to continue, take level 5, which is the ECE course, Early College Experience. It is a UConn course that we offer at the high school level. Now, this chart is the normal progression. In yellow, you can see that some students who are very self-motivated elect sometimes to complete coursework over the summer. And by doing that, they are able to skip one level and move up faster in the curriculum. This year, we are servicing 481 students altogether in world languages, 16 in German, so 16 in German, Latin, French, Spanish. Spanish is the program that has the most students. The students who are taking German are using a program known as Rosetta Stone and Babbel. And I'm sure that you have heard of those programs. Having lost our German teacher last year, we didn't want to let go of these students because switching language will make it difficult for them. So these 16 students are still working on their coursework and will be granted credit at the end of the year. In German, in Latin, we have 59 students. In French, we have 135 students. And in Spanish, we have 271 students. What is our goal this year? In world languages, our goal is to use a tool that we call Unit Guide. The Unit Guide is a roadmap that spells out what we want to cover in the length of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes 5 weeks. And the Unit Guide is based on the standards. And the standards that we follow is the ACTFL standard. Another aspect of our goals is to have common assessments for our students. If we have 2 teachers teaching the same course, we don't want the students to have different experiences. That is why teachers work together in a framework we call PLC. They consult with one another, they design courses and lessons together, and they also create assessments together. That way the experience is the same. As I pointed out earlier, our coursework follow the standard. And we use that standard for formative assessments and summative assessments. We make sure that what we do for formative assessments is in line with what we do for summatives. And by that, the summative prepares the student for the summative. We also use Tier 1 and Tier 2 support for our students. Tier 1 support is what we do in the classroom when we notice that some students need extra help. And the way we meet that need is through differentiation. Tier 2 support is provided in a different setting through peer tutoring. through specialized attention by a teacher or a staff that is specialized in that language. We also share best practices with one another. And we look at student performance. We look at data in order to improve our instruction. The actual standards is the roadmap we follow. And the key element of the actual standard is what we call the 5 C's. And the 5 C's are communication, culture, connection, comparison, and community building. We don't just spend time having students put pencil or pen to paper in the classroom. We do more than that. Throughout the school year, we celebrate the French Week. We have guest speakers come and present to our students, entertain student questions. We also observe the Hispanic Heritage Month, Latin Day, and we also have Mani Musical, or Locura de Marzo, which is patterned after March Madness, and it consists of affording our students the opportunity to learn the languages we teach through music. So they listen to music, they learn vocab, they learn new ways of speaking. Something else that we do is to attend the Yukon Quiz Bowl. And the Quiz Bowl is a trivia challenge that our students attend. 3 years ago, we won place 2 trophy at this Quiz Bowl. We also have the potluck dinner, which is a big event for us in that it brings to our students, teachers, and family. And it is an event that allows us to celebrate diversity and culture. So by these different events, the intent is to provide real-life connections as an extension to our students. We have overseas exchanges, such as the Costa Rica trip to France, trip to Quebec, and trip to Italy. We currently have 54 world language honor society members who are actively engaged in our community by providing tutoring on a day-to-day basis. These students belonging to the honor society also adopt families in our community and do fundraisers to support them. I already mentioned that, the Mani Musical, which is a musical March Madness event, affording students the opportunity to listen to music in French, in Spanish, learning new vocab, filling brackets, and predicting winners. In November, we had French Week, and students spend time having hands-on activities such as building the Eiffel Tower, replicas. Students who do very well receive awards to celebrate the tallest replica, the favorite, the most innovative, and the most accurate replica. The potluck dinner extravaganza event is to celebrate the rich culture and diversity in our community. It is to showcase culinary delights from around the world, and it is an opportunity for us to break bread with our students, their families, grandparents, and siblings. And it is also meant to promote a sense of community and belonging. And these are some pictures showing students building the Eiffel Tower replicas and having fun. This was the most accurate one from Mr. Borkman's class. The most innovative, the tallest, and these are pictures from the trip to Quebec. And recently, on November 18, Mrs. Norton had a guest speaker who zoomed in all the way from Spain and presented to Spanish students who asked questions and received answers from the speaker. Pictures from the Costa Rica exchange. The potluck dinner from last year. And this is a data set from our tutoring program, which was the flagship program from the world language, which has been scaled up to the school-wide level. So looking at performance data, what we do is to provide remediation, differentiation, and allow students to get a second chance for assessments. We also offer the biliteracy test for our students, which is an added value to the high school diploma. As you can see, last year we had languages such as Latin, Korean, French, Nepali, and Turkish. Last year, 23 students were awarded the Seal of Biliteracy, which makes them stand out on the job market. I will now answer any question that you may have before Mrs. Magna takes the floor. Yes.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. In one of the slides, you said that you have a mid-400s of the student population taking languages.
Yes.
How does that, do you have data on how that compares to our peer schools? Is that a low number? I mean, that's less than half the students in the school taking languages. I'm going to ask all three, and then you can. And I wanted to know, how many of the students who are taking languages take it for are taking it all 4 years or taking it 3 years? Do you have that data we could see? And then on the summer program where you said to have a summer program where people could get, how does that, I'm assuming that takes place here.
Yes.
Do we have issues of impediments for students, some students not being able to get here? Because I'm assuming there are no buses, right? Yeah, so that's another question I would have. Whether
I will answer the last question first. The work that is done is not in person. Prior to letting out for summer vacation, the student who elects to do acceleration sit down with teachers and map out the work that is to be completed over the summer. And the teacher and the student communicate over the summer.
so they can do it from home.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yes. And in terms of the number of students who are taking languages, as compared to other schools, I wish I have that data. I don't have it. Last year, I know that we were 500 and higher, almost 600. But this year, it went down. Yes.
And on the issue of the number of students, I mean, in those numbers, I'm assuming are students who take the language for just 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years, for 4 years. Can we get breakdowns of how many of the students are taking it 4 years, 3 years, or when? That would be great for the future. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and I had a question. I was looking ahead a little bit at Megan's report, and she usefully included some of the AP tests, which I think are really important for students at E.O. Smith because, of course, most colleges require some kind of language preparation, and so AP tests are really important for that. What are the language breakdowns as far as like AP tests administered and then passed for like French and Spanish and Latin? Do you have a sense of that for like just the last year?
Last year, we had 2 students in French who took it.
Oh.
Unfortunately, we did not do well.
What were their scores in French?
Yes.
Oh yeah, what were their scores? I mean, were there any that were at a 3?
No.
Oh, so 2 or 1?
Last year, we didn't make any 3.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you make, is it 2?
2. Yes.
2. Okay. And then, yeah. And Spanish?
Spanish, yes. We had 8 students.
Yeah.
And all 8 made 3.
Oh, that's great.
Which is the passing score.
Yeah, that's terrific because that counts then for their college credits.
Mhm.
And then did anybody take the AP and Latin?
My recollection is not good, so I rather not give an answer to that. I will double check.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then for the for how many students are in the accelerated programs in the summer, like collectively?
Well, generally it is a handful. I will say anywhere from 3 to 5 at the most. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Gustav, thank you for being here tonight. Of those 16 German students, do you know how many years they've been taking that language? Like, is it all 16 that are on year 3 of that language?
Yes.
They're all on year 3.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right? Any other questions? Well, let's move on to social studies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have printouts. There was some very small text that I knew you wouldn't be able to see. Well, some of the numbers I know are small, but this was the smallest of the text. So the elective courses that were on here, I wanted you to be able to see those. I am Megan Magner. I'm the Director of Social Studies. Thank you so much for having me here tonight to talk about our program. Where the keyboard went. Really excited to present after Kellyanne and Hassana because a lot of the things that they were talking about are mirrored in the social studies presentation. So they really set the foundation for some of the things I'm going to talk about. And one of the things that they mentioned was a story. And I was thinking of kind of using that analogy tonight. So I will, since they kind of said that for us. I do want to notice, so this RWB Schools, if you're not familiar with that, it's the Red, White, and Blue Schools program that is run by the state of Connecticut. We were recognized as one of the schools who received the Red, White, and Blue designation because of all of the work that students do with civics. And it's very interesting because the Equity Council flyer was one of the pieces of evidence that I included in our portfolio when I was looking at it today, just to like refresh my mind of some of the things that we had done there. So, so it's not just social studies, but it is something that a lot of social studies teachers are involved in and that we're really proud of. So I wanted to put that designation there. So our course progression starts with students in 9th grade. Students at E.O. Smith are required to take 3 credits in social studies. The first year of that is going to be grade 9, an 8-year-long course that's modern world history. We have 2 levels, college and career and honors. Sophomore year, students are enrolled in U.S. history. And that's where we break into 3 levels. It's again a year-long course. So college and career, honors, and then AP ECE. It is one of the very few courses, I might be the only one, where they can cross-designate. Typically, UConn doesn't like you to have an AP designation with it, but the courses are so similar that students can earn 6 credits at UConn because it is 2 courses. So it's 2 semester courses plus potential AP credit. So it makes transferring the scores and potentially getting credit much easier for students. We have an unleveled course that is the cumulative course for students, which is civics. That is the one course that the state of Connecticut says students must take regardless of where they attend high school in Connecticut. Typically seniors take the course, but there are some juniors who are in there depending on what their schedule is like. And then in addition to that, there are elective courses where students have to take half a credit or more. Those are typically going to be students in grades 11 and 12. They cover all the social studies. We also have AP microeconomics that counts for the financial literacy. So students can take that and meet both requirements. But we have history, economics, politics with criminal justice. So there's lots of different options, both in half year and full year courses at the college and career, honors, and AP and ECE level that students are able to take. And about 75% of students take more than the required 3 years of social studies. So we're really proud of that. One thing to note is that modern world history, US history, and civics are the 3 content areas where the Connecticut Social Studies Framework has our standards. We don't have strict cutoff requirements as far as students being able to access higher levels. So if a student, say, gets a C+ and they're in modern world history honors, and they say, you know, there's a lot of things that I learned over the course of this year. I struggled in the beginning and then I really figured it out at the end, and I still ended up with that C+, but I want to try AP, ECE, US history. That's something that we would support the student doing if they've demonstrated that growth. There has never been a time that so I've been department head now for 11 years. There may have been like 1 or 2 kids where we say, this is really not a good idea. We're very concerned about your ability to thrive given what your grade was. So we've had kids who sometimes have been in college and career and got D's or F's and didn't have those skill demonstrations where we were nervous about it. But typically, if we have students where we're concerned, the 9th grade teachers look at them, we send a note to guidance and we talk to the students about, hey, we saw that you signed up for AP. we think that you could be successful, but here's some things that you might want to think about, whether that's using the student center, or getting some support with reading level, or keeping in mind that they might have to put in additional time from what they did that year. But we do want students to progress through those levels, and that fluidity between levels is highly encouraged. It is common to have students start with ninth grade career and college and career level, and then finish out junior and senior year in an AP or ECE class. Grade 10 students can take elective courses. Sometimes there is a lot of interest in students who have demonstrated that they have a lot of content knowledge, interest in skill development to be able to be successful in those courses. Our 10th graders typically are successful in that situation. There are times where we may say this student doesn't have the background knowledge they might need. For example, if they haven't taken U.S. history and understand some of the historical elements that led to the current criminal justice system, it might be difficult for them to understand criminal justice. However, there are some students who are very interested, have that background because of personal interest, and then have been highly successful in that course or other courses. We also link courses to help students get to a college credit class in an area where they might have exceptional interest. So the African American, Black, and Puerto Rican Latino Studies is a college and career level full year class. If students really like the work that they do there, they have a much stronger base of knowledge, more maturity, better skill development for them to be successful in the pilot AP African American Studies class that we have. So we're going to look at making that into a formal part of our course grouping for next year. Human behavior is a great ground course for AP Psychology or Advanced Human Development and Family Studies. Genocide, which is a half-year course, great precursor to add human rights for students who are interested. And then one of the less taken options, but definitely a possibility, is students taking U.S. history. It says honors there, but I can see situations where there were many situations where a college and career student by senior year may want to go into the ECE AP course. I can understand why there might be concerns about saying, why would a student be able to get U.S. history credit twice? The Connecticut Social Studies Framework breaks down U.S. history into 5th grade, 8th grade, and high school. So the high school standards cover from the Reconstruction era to present day. The AP ECE curriculum goes from colonial history to present day. So the breadth is wider, but also the depth. So there would be increased learning. There are the skills of using document-based questions, the number of primary sources that students are using is definitely increased. So they are going to get a much deeper understanding from that course. Goals for social studies this year, in line with the grading and reporting policy, is to use the standards that are aligned, analyze those standards, and create unit guides and assessments that support student learning. So we'll see that in our common unit guides and the common formative assessments, similar to what Gustav said, that Tier 1 classroom supports to make sure that all students are successful, to make sure that we fully understand individual students and the different supports that they might need. You'll see some of the data that I'm going to talk about and how teams of teachers can come together using data protocols to think about what Tier 1 supports might be the best support for students, depending on which class they're in and what their data looks like. Part of that is also formalizing structures for data review, but also assessment calibration. So when you have teachers who are teaching common assessments or teaching common content, and giving common assessments, you also want to make sure that they're scoring those assessments in a similar way. So participating in calibration activities. I want to go back for a second because it says unit guides and formative assessments. And I don't want you to think that we do not care about common summative assessments. That's not our area of focus this year because we've had common summative assessments now for a number of years. So it's building in and making sure that all the steps are more common. We also want to continue embedding the departmental equity action plan to our PLCs and into all of our curriculum to make sure that there is consistency for students in like courses and throughout the department, that our process is clear, that what we are teaching students is clear, they know what classes, what they need to do to be successful, And that everybody has access to higher level courses. And this is for all students, but also we care about the historically marginalized groups. So that way we can help to break down the problems that people have faced and make sure that those barriers don't exist. So this is where our story piece starts. Our AP test scores, historically, AP US History has always been seen as a great course. Students have performed exceptionally well. And so when students take exams, our mean score at EO Smith has consistently been above the Connecticut average. AP Psychology is a newer course. We have had it for a number of years at this point, but our scores typically weren't as strong. And so our mean score on AP Psychology was often below the Connecticut average. This was something that talking with Sharon, talking with Renee Nigerian, and talking with the teachers, that there had to be a shift in the course. Last year, AP Psychology revised their test. And as part of that, there was a huge push to have teachers who taught AP Psychology to use the College Board site more frequently, to use the release materials to help students study, the multiple choice questions, extended response questions, and really prepare every single student for the AP Psychology test, even if they didn't think that they wanted to take it. That the number one goal needed to be that each student was prepared, because that's about $3,000 plus that are on the table for anybody who went into that test and maybe wasn't successful. So you can see that when that connection to standards was put in place, our numbers were much more in line with the difference between the state and EO Smith for US history. And I really do think that we're going to grow with this. The two teachers who are teaching it this year, their PLC is phenomenal to be part of what they're doing with AI to have reassessment so that they can create additional examples for students to practice some of the extended response questions, because there are not a lot of those available. It's really, really incredible work to see them working, to see their unit guides, how aligned with the tests they are, and then to see the results in the score. So I really do think that we're even going to see a greater increase in those. But also notice that like 85 and 84 students are enrolled in AP Psychology. So those are juniors and seniors. So that's a good chunk of those classes. Now we're going to move down to freshmen and sophomores. So I wanted to show the positive kind of story of standards data. So the Common Core state standards are what are assigned, the ELA Common Core state standards are what are measured on the iReady test. I know Stephanie Holland spoke at the last meeting. She went more in depth on the iReady scores. And she and I have been working closely with each other. What I'm specifically focused on is the comprehension line for informational text. When you look at the standards for informational text for English, they mirror the Common Core state standards in history and social studies, as well as the social studies framework that the state of Connecticut has. So this is the social studies inquiry arc. This is our part of our national standards, the state standards. The inquiry arc is the foundational skills that students are going to be working on in social studies classes. It starts with the first domain where you're asking questions. Domain 2 is where you think like a historian, an economist, a geographer. Dimension 3 is where you assess sources, decide what's going to be the best source to use, really looking at those different resources. And then Dimension 4, communicating conclusions and taking informed action. When you look at these 4 dimensions, they are aligned directly with the ELA standards for both reading and writing. We only have the standardized test data for the reading, but we are very involved in student writing and building those writing skills. So I don't want you to think that I'm forgetting those, but I just want to focus on the data from the reading. So you can see here that for literacy, Dimension 1 covers Standard 1 for 9th grade and 10th grade. Reading for writing, Standard 7. There are 10 CCSS history and social studies standards for reading, 10 for writing. The inquiry arc covers all of them. So we really focus on these inquiry standards. There's a lot of training available on inquiry for social studies teachers, and it's really the core of what we do skill-wise in social studies. So when you look at the iReady scores that were taken by students in October this year, you can see who was above grade level to below grade level. So in the freshman class, 55% of students were either right early on grade level or above. 25% were 2 or more grades below. When you look at the 10th grade, 40% of students were above, grade at or above. 35 were 2 or more grade levels below. So how do we know that this data? Yes, it's a normed test. It's a national test. Putting this in, it's not something that was done without research. But do we have data that supports this? Yes. The PSAT data in information and ideas closely resembles and in some cases exactly mirrors what iReady told us. So if you look at the freshmen, where 25% of students were 2 or more grade levels below, 26% were at 410 or below. 410 is that magic number for ELA on the PSAT of whether you've met the goal or you have not met the goal. On iReady, it shows that 35% of grade 10 is 2 or more grade levels below. This is 28%, but one of the things to look at is the score band of 420 to 480 that's at 23%. So those kids where it might have been a couple questions one way or the other are likely the reason for the higher number on the iReady. The sophomores also hadn't taken the iReady in a number of years. The freshmen were familiar with the test, so we're interested to see what the data shows. But when you look at SBAC data, when you look at iReady, when you look at the PSAT, you can see very clear trends for individual students. So what do we do with this? We know we have students who are unsuccessful. What do we do? iReady breaks it down into standards where you can rank it by how well did they do. You can break it down by reading for information, reading for literature. So as social studies, I looked at the reading for information and said, okay, where are the standards where we performed the worst? Because that's going to be where we need to target our instruction the most. Interestingly, for 9th graders, analyzing seminal US documents, which is an ELA, it's an English standard because they do read nonfiction and primary source, came up as the #1 area of need. So already the modern world history teachers have been incorporating more, even though it's world history, they've still been putting in more primary source documents for students to work through. Determining the meanings of words and phrases and what word choice means, how that affects the overall meaning. Evaluating arguments and looking at is there enough source information to support a claim? Is the evidence, is it credible evidence? So really looking at what makes up a good argument, and that is so core to the inquiry process. And then looking at a story that might be told, say, in print, and then a documentary of it, what is common between them? And then what's different and why are they different? So those were the 4 that were the lowest for 9th grade. Very interestingly, 10th grade had the exact same 4 standards in the same order that were the lowest performing standards. So that gives us a lot of information of what students are coming to EO Smith with, and then what do we need to do better with in 9th grade and through 10th grade. Keeping in mind that while it looks like, okay, scary, only 62 students are ready at this point, these are 9th and 10th grade standards that students are expected to complete by the end of 10th grade. So we're still in an okay place of growth to help students improve on these. As a social studies department, we used the protocol, and we looked just at the strands to see what did we notice and what would be things that we might want to think about as a department moving forward with our curriculum, or where we might need to put focus to help students improve in these areas. In the coming month, both 9th grade and 10th grade teachers during PLC time, we're going to use, we use the Atlas information protocol, Atlas data. I've always called the Atlas protocol, but it is linked in here to help look at more specific data. This is a very small snapshot of a large spreadsheet. I know that Stephanie Holland showed you this, and it's great because like the PSAT data came out a couple of days later, and she's like, "Shoot, I could have had that. I was like, I get to show it in mine." So, so you get like more intricate details of your story here. So you can see you have a student here in Modern World History CC. You can get their score from the mid-semester grade. You can see lots of demographic data, and then you have their SBAC score, their iReady score, and their PSAT. So you have a student here who's in Modern World History CC, has a C-, but is meeting or exceeding all of the standards. So that's something that we might have to take a look at and better understand. And that's where the Tier 1 supports or accelerating students comes into play. But we're going to be looking at this data as a PLC using the Atlas protocol to help determine what supports need to go in place, what has to happen with our curriculum, and where do we need to go moving forward assessment-wise. So this brings us back. We started out with the opening of our story, or I should say of the chapter, because really this is like a very long book. But we started out with what are our goals? These are all the things that we're doing to help accomplish those goals. Really focusing on unit guides, common formative assessments, and summative assessments in order to infuse those social studies standards and really pay attention to the standards where students are struggling. Better and more intentional use of enrichment and supports. When you know where students are struggling, you can more accurately target Tier 1 supports. One of the things that I want to understand from teachers is what they're seeing and where the areas where they might feel that they need professional development or structures and supports that they might want to understand better. And using Kelly Riccardi, our reading specialist, to come in and help PLCs with better meeting student reading needs. Teachers do recognize that students struggle with reading. And when you go through education school, you don't get direct training in reading. So having Kelly and having her expertise is going to be really a support because she's very willing to come into our PLCs. Having data protocols in place. This is a link to the Atlas protocol that I told you about. As I said, we used a protocol already in our department meeting, and in the next month, we're going to be doing this in the 9th grade Modern World History PLC and in the 10th grade US History PLC, so that we can make better informed decisions, so that we can improve student performance, so that we can improve student experience in social studies so that they feel more confident, so bringing up that idea of belonging, and also so that they'll participate at higher levels in those higher academic level courses. We want to make sure that starting in 9th grade, students have equitable access. So if we see a student who has really high test scores, but they're placed in a college and career class, understanding why that's the case. It's not always going to be the best decision for some students who have these really high test scores to take honors level. We don't want to make that blanket decision because there are times where students want to push themselves in some areas. They're really nervous. Socially, emotionally, it's better for them to have a mix of classes. And like I said, a lot of the students that we have start in college and career end up in AP CE. We have things like the Thrive Guide to help them better understand. And we also support students moving at the mid-year. Our US History honors in college and career and Modern World History college and career are very tightly aligned so that moving at the semester is easy for students to do without them feeling overwhelmed or having missed a whole lot of stuff. And lastly, improved departmental collaboration. I'm sure you have like embedded to memory Steph Holland's presentation. If you and you're like, wow, this sounds a lot like that. We are working very closely together. Directors are working closely with each other. Department heads, a lot of these are things that Gustav had mentioned. We want students to be successful. We want to take a data-informed plan to help meet every student's needs, to make sure that all students are successful and accelerating at the appropriate pace for them, so that they can, whether they're going to college, whether they're going to the workforce, whether they're going to the military, that they can have all the choices available to them so that they can be successful. So that is the end of our bedtime story. Usually I am finishing bedtime stories for 8 years. So not tonight. What questions can I answer for you?
Thank you, Megan, for being here tonight. And I really like the spreadsheet that you have showing the different columns of the different tests and the grade level. And
take credit for that. It started with Kelly Riccardi, and then like Dave had a lot to do, but this is like,
I think it's awesome.
So-
It's really great.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that's amazing. And to see a little snippet of it is very helpful.
it is incredibly helpful, and I love seeing the continuity
Yeah.
of like, oh yeah, iReady really does match the PSAT. It really does match the SBAC scores, and just being able to see like it goes wider where we even have like, so some tabs have like all the student, one of the tabs has all the student names, the English teacher, social studies teacher, English grade, social studies. I mean, like, it's just a lot of information. And then with AI, being able to use that to analyze some of the data we have, and using the bot that Dave created to use it with past data, I'm really excited for it. It's just such a time saver. And being able to really use data effectively, and like using current data.
Right.
So,
No, that's awesome. And so the one question I do have is on slide 25, with the current EO Smith grade 9 and 10 student performance. These percentages, this breakdown, is that based off of where you're supposed to be end of grade 10?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is. So,
Any other questions?
Thank you so much. It's brilliant. I was, I like this slide where you kind of zoom in, and I do remember Steph's presentation, and which was brilliant as well. And I was just wondering, because she also was talking about that 30% of people and that are however you would.
The two or more grade levels below.
Right. And so I was just thinking, is there, when you're looking at that, because I am kind of inspired by when you zoom in on it, then you kind of get a sense of their lives. And I feel like, are you able to get creative with that group in the way you would like to? Are you know what I mean? Like, is there any, is there something you would like to do that you're not able to do, or is there, or do you feel like you have all the resources to reach that group?
I mean, I feel that we work closely with each other, and we work with Sharon and Lou, Karen, and Dave. Like, I don't feel that there's ever been a time where we've put a proposal forward that's research where it's like, no, you can't do that. It's always, I mean, it is part of the equity that is embedded in this school, wanting to increase the students' performance, participation, and experience. I think if I wouldn't have any issues bringing something forward and saying, hey, what are we going to do? I think now that we really know with multiple data points where we are, now we're saying, okay, what are we really going to do? And that's something that we're trying to figure out. I mean, I know that it follows a national trend, so it is not just EO Smith, but how do we get students to be better readers? I mentioned AI. And I think it can be a really good tool, but how do you get it so it's not reading for students, and helping to provide structures maybe that does help them to read? How do we empower students to help them know what tools they need, whether that's a graphic organizer or a type of note taking that they're going to do? So some of it comes down to those tier 1 supports as well, and differentiating those within the classroom. So it's a lot of change with having more data. It's a lot of change, which has not been this school's issue. It's a unique issue of being a high school with so many sending tabs. To get that data, like, there's just been such a push now that it's more readily available and easier to get. But I really feel like the resources are here and the support is here. I know that everybody wants students to succeed. So I think we feel pressure, but it's good pressure. And that we feel that we're going to be able to help students to do even better. So.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to hold on the superintendent's report and take a look at the consent agenda. Is there anything on this consent agenda that should be taken off?
I wanted to remove the minutes.
Reference to minutes, okay. Anything else? Right, we typically take a look at the issue with the minutes before we go in.
I wasn't here for the meeting, so I didn't want to abstain.
Oh, all right, well,
You can't do that. The consent agenda.
right. All right. Any other questions about this? And motion to approve the consent agenda.
So
All right, looks like Tim and then Nick.
Yep.
So any further discussion about that?
I just have a comment on the budget review meeting, to the budget review workshop, just for new members. That's just sort of an opportunity to break down the budget a little bit more and ask some questions, especially for new members. Was helpful for me to be able to meet with Sharon one-on-one as a new board member to just ask questions about what the budget looks like and how to wrap my head around it. So I think it's a great opportunity for new members to just sort of get a better understanding of the budget process. So that was the one change there.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? We don't need to go back to the, she just abstained.
No, she
we
voted.
remove that.
Yeah,
Now we go.
All right,
yeah, now we have to vote for that.
all right. Okay, motion to approve the minutes. Nick?
Second.
Janice? Any questions about that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 1, 2.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. All right. The next item then is the superintendent's.
Do we want to do the discussion items?
Oh, we can. Yeah, let's do that. And then we'll do.
Tell them that you're reporting it up for a couple hours. Get a little work done.
All right. Discussion items.
Yes.
Oh, great.
So normally, we have resignations and retirements in the consent agenda, but we have a special one. So, Karen Brullo, who has been here at EO Smith for 36 years, has put in her letter of retirement for the end of this year, so June of 2026. And we did not put it in the consent agenda because we need a second to embarrass her and thank her for her dedication and her years of service to the students and the families and the community of EO Smith, and just let her know that she will be missed and how much we truly, truly appreciate on so many levels everything that she has done here. And even in my short 6 years here, which pales in comparison, she's been an amazing colleague and administrator. So it certainly has been my honor. I don't know if Dave or Lou would like to say a few words.
Just for anybody who's new, who doesn't know, Karen had been the department head for social studies and prior to that, teacher of social studies. And I think you're a department head the whole time I worked here. Pretty sure. Yeah. And that was a long time ago.
I've been here a long time and I just love this place, and it's going to be really, really hard to leave, but at some point, Deborah, right, you gotta leave and move on to your next adventure.
Yeah, which is back here. I'm sure there'll be plenty of volunteer opportunities.
She has different ideas.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're going to wish you well, but we have all year to wish you well.
Let's give them.
All right, sufficiently embarrassed? We're good. All right, so we actually have to accept this retirement. So I need a motion by somebody to accept unless nobody's willing.
I'll motion with a friendly amendment to switch it from the minutes from resignation to retirement.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would motion retirement.
Okay, I think we can do that.
Okay. Sorry.
Tim seconds that. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to let Karen go by saying aye. Aye. They can't leave until June 30. Motion passed. All right, another discussion item.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, everyone received in the consent agenda the discipline policy that the policy committee had moved forward. And instead of having it on the consent agenda to be accepted by the board, we put it into the discussion in case anyone had any questions or anything that they wanted to discuss, and it's kind of saved us all the issue of pulling it off the consent agenda in order to have discussion. So we just wanted to open that up for any discussion, questions, or comments.
Yes, I understand. This is actually a copyrighted document question.
That was my first question.
So we're not the only ones seeing the same document. And my only comment is that I would look to the introductory paragraph and to the sentence that says, pursuant to this policy, the district shall promote the utilization of consistent discipline practices both within and across schools in the district. Well, in this case, it's just the school, while also promoting the consideration of individual circumstances arising in each student disciplinary matter. I just want to emphasize that the policy is one thing, the implementation is something that as a school that's trying to reach equity, that we are mindful at all times, that we are applying it consistently and that we are paying attention to the equities.
Yeah, so that copyright note, I mean, that's sort of, it seems like, what do we do with that, right? Is that truly there? I mean, assuming we're paying them to get this, right?
They're expecting us to use their model policies. So
Not amended.
So that they would retain that, you're saying?
the copyright?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Link perhaps. So do we intend to include references to grades well outside our district, band grades like grade 3 and kindergarten and other references in here to things that don't really apply to our district? Is that, do we tend to keep that or?
A lot of this is statute. So a lot of the language in there. So specifically on which page are you looking at? We did discuss some of those things.
Say page 11. Grade 3 to 12. Kindergarten to 12. Preschool programs.
First paragraph.
There's a number of, not a lot of where
Yeah. Those are.
like a state. Well, I didn't think this was the staff, the statutes were in the back, but okay, I just wanted to ask if that was our intention, there was just,
Yeah, those are referencing.
because obviously we don't have purview into those grades.
Yeah, I mean,
Because there are different rules for pre-K 2.
Yeah.
So it's the range of grades 3 to 1.
I think we could acknowledge, we can improve the policy, but acknowledge that we are a regional high school only and that there are parts of the policy that don't apply.
That seems reasonable. Nick?
Yeah, thank you. One of the comments that brought up, and I think one of the reasons why it's a discussion item, is the definition of AI. And we had sort of a small conversation on whether we should define the misuse of AI. And I had just gone through and checked, reviewed the mentions of AI, and it's clear that it's referring to the misuse. And I think we also had the conversation of doing a whole new AI policy. So I think that's part of the conversation. And so this is going to pair with a lot of the policies that we're working on and already have. So that was part of the thought process of that. Just some background.
Any other questions? Yeah, are we moving to accept this tonight?
If we're prepared to, we can. Otherwise, we can put it on the consent agenda for January.
Is there any reason not to move on this tonight?
I would completely do. We proceed and approve it tonight.
All right, we have a motion to proceed and approve it tonight. Is there a second? Second, Arthur? Not Arthur, second. Thank you. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Right. Hopefully it meets our needs.
All right. You want to do this real thing too? The one from last year, by the end?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So one of my jobs is to make sure that all our committees are fully populated with things that hopefully make you feel fulfilled. So we're setting around a ballot that you can fill out in terms of what you're most interested in. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but you get this back to me, and then by the next two meetings, we will have communication about what committees you're staying on, what you are changing to, or however that plays out. So these will come around.
The one is would be the one.
All right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
This is not the ballot. I was like, what? This is very like ballot.
Just one sheet of paper, just so that we can get our committees populated.
It's late. It's past my bedtime.
Okay, it's past everyone's bedtime. This has been this is the heaviest report meeting that we have had. So, this is gonna be fast. It feels thick. Don't worry, it's not. It will be, we're gonna move through the slides relatively quickly. We will have time to revisit this data when we have our retreat. So if there's things that we don't quite get to, we can revisit. And I do know that first slide is nasty on the eyes. There's a reason for that. We've been talking about accountability, and I was a little upset last time because I wanted to present accountability at the last meeting. But it came out too late for that to happen. Because what you've heard over the past two meetings is getting down into kind of the weeds of the data, where this is more of the broad, overarching look at, what is the overarching high stakes assessments tell us about how our students are doing. And then the information that's been shared with you over the past two meetings gets more into how does that cross-reference with our more specific assessments, our school-based assessments, and then what are we doing about it on the daily with the work with students. So since I got here, and I've had this conversation with you all. Don't look away. I know it hurts.
It hurts.
I do know it hurts. I've looked at our next gen accountability data, which is the state report card that we get on a variety of different indicators that we'll talk about step by step very quickly this evening. And then looking at our data at EO, our index and rates from 2015, 16, up through kind of tracking it through the years with some gaps for our COVID years. So the overview of our historical data from 2015 to 2016, the green indicates when the state data, so it's a comparison of the Connecticut index to the EO index. And when you see the red versus the green, it just means that the Connecticut was higher or EO was higher based on what the color is. So you can kind of see there's ups and downs with that data. So English, if we just take a look at English, traditionally there was a trend where English was kind of falling below the state year to year. We're starting to kind of make some inroads with that as you take a look at the 24-25 data. We're getting closer to the state, to meeting the state. But what's really interesting when you look at our 24-25 data is that our high needs group is actually above the state. So, and you'll see some trends with the movement of our high needs group in our new data from this year for 24-25, where there's some growth in our high needs group that's actually exceeding our all students group, which is kind of interesting. And in some ways is some really good news. So part of this is to give you some information, and I'm not going to read through all of this. Some of you are more familiar with the indicators for the state data than others. You can certainly take a look at this, and again, we'll revisit this either at our retreat, or we can revisit this in another report. It's kind of been a long meeting.
But indicators 1A through F are academic achievement indicators. You're going to see that there's academic achievement indicators in math, English, and science for high needs and for all students. And so when we talk about high needs, we're indicated in the third bullet. Students belong in at least one of several categories. They're either eligible for free or reduced price meals, they're English language or multi-language learners, or they're students with disabilities. They would be grouped into that high needs group. When you look at that data over time, this chart is just the EO data compared our all students with our high need students over time. And then this chart shows all students and high need students compared to the Connecticut data. So you can take a look at that and look at that growth. I think what's really kind of interesting is we followed some trends with ups and downs. When we saw the state data going down, EO was going down as well. We're starting to go up, the students starting to go up. We're starting to intersect now, and you're starting to see the EO data intersect now with the state data as our scores start to come up. So we're starting to see some positive trends in the upward direction. That would be LA, is math. Math, we saw some bigger dips. So math was a little bit of a different creature. We were historically above the state pre-COVID. Post-COVID, we saw some big dips. The state scores went down significantly. EO scores went down significantly as well. And they're just starting to make their way up. I thought what was really interesting with math is they made some minor increases this year, starting to make their way up. High needs group actually made bigger gains than the all students group did in math. Science, don't be afraid of the first dip. It's here that we're going to test. I left it in. I wanted to take it out because I didn't like the there's a chart one. Left it in. Science has traditionally been above state average. It still is. However, our scores did dip down a little bit this year. So one of the things that they are looking at, and we'll talk a little bit at the end as we talk about the so what of all of this information is, what is the science, the science director, science department, were they doing in regards to taking a look at the next gen science test is what can we do to work on those skills. Indicator 4. So we skip indicator 2 and 3 because those are geared toward the elementary schools. And they are growth standards. So we don't have growth standards. We aren't giving them in multiple grades like they do in grades 3 through 8. So we don't see those. We don't report those. Indicator 4 is chronic absenteeism. This is a big one. It's important for us to remember. Chronic absenteeism is anyone who's absent more than 18 days in a year. And that is any absence. Excused, unexcused, going on a college visit, taking the mental health day that the state said that we can. Those days count toward chronic absenteeism. And when you take a look at the charts, take a look at the graphs, we see that chronic absenteeism went up considerably during COVID. It's just starting to come down now. One of the things that is, I think, really exciting for us is we are actually starting to really see the benefits of the REACH program, even though the REACH program is really geared toward not necessarily chronic absenteeism, but actually our students who are truant. Because that program is in place, it's almost like this collateral benefit of as we're paying closer and closer attention to absenteeism, our students are paying closer attention to being in school. Because if we're paying really close attention and sending a very strong message that if you're not here, you can't be as successful.
Can I just interrupt for a second? Again? So, again, in the event that the new people don't know, we have a social worker who specifically works with students who are not coming to school.
Yes, so Omar Rosario is our homeschool family liaison. He and Lou started the REACH program, which is a program that targets students who have specific school avoidance. And it's geared toward determining what the root cause of their school avoidance is and targeting intervention for that root cause, rather than trying to kind of, in some cases, we try to throw the kitchen sink of interventions at students without really knowing what we're really treating. And so there's a lot of work that they've put into protocols and documents to really determine, through working with the family and with the students, what really is it that's causing the students not to school, and then gearing those interventions toward actions that are really making a difference for the student, whether it's social, emotional, or whether it's academic or both. Indicator 5 is post-secondary preparation. This one's really interesting. So percentage of students in 11th and 12th grade participating in at least one of the following high school, one of the following during high school. So either 2 courses in an AP or IB, into International Baccalaureate, we don't have here, or dual credit, which would be our ECE, or 2 CTE courses in one of 17 career clusters, or 2 workplace experience courses in any area. And you can see that the orange is Connecticut, the blue is EO, and for the most part, Connecticut has outperformed. There's reasons for that. I think we're competing in some ways with technical schools that have CTE programs where they're taking those courses of study. What we've discovered too is that there's also some coding issues with some of our courses, including our STAR program, where students who are 12th grade or older, transition programs count. So if you're having a work experience, that counts toward that experience. And so now we're really looking at how all of our courses are coded. And so for as well as we are actually doing in this area, as far as reaching our benchmark, we're doing well, but we can be doing better. And so we're looking at these areas that, making sure that our coding of courses is correct, and making sure that we are also being very clear, and this goes back to working with the pathways conversation, that, and you'll notice, I think you'll notice, because you directed us to do so, and I think it was a great idea, that the pathway information that you're getting from the directors that actually show those pathways will help to guide students to taking those sequential courses, so that we'll see more of that as we move along.
So Sharon, you're saying we may not be getting credit for everything we're actually doing.
Correct.
And we need to fix that.
We are fixing it as we start. STAR is one of them. Depot is one as well. For the juniors and seniors who are there, coding some of their work experience as courses is just it's a small fix. This one is interesting too. The indicator 6 is a post-secondary writing. So this is the percentage of students' performance in those courses that they're taking. When you look at the graph of that, this is the state, and this is EO. So even though EO, the state outperforms us in how many students are in those courses, not necessarily in those courses or in those pathways, our students outperform on their performance on those assessments. Graduation on track in 9th grade. So this is a measure of how many 9th graders are earning at least 6 full credits at the end of freshman year. And again, when you look at the data, we have this little dip here, that little big dip. That was 2023.
That also coincides with big challenges in attendance, where we had a lot of students on the cusp of losing credit in courses due to attendance. And so there was an implementation of a process or protocol at that time where students could make up seat time. That was something that was through the state. But we had to have a process or a protocol in place where they could make up seat time. They weren't awarded credit back until they had fulfilled that requirement. They weren't awarded that credit until after the deadline for reporting to the state. So as a result, that's that dip. So now we know students have a passing grade in the course. We're assuming that they're going to earn that credit back, and we're reporting it correctly as a course that they passed and earning their credit. So that's more reflective of the students who are actually on track academically to graduate on time. The adjusted 4-year cohort graduation rates is based on the number of students who start in 9th grade in a given year, and then the number of students who graduate in 4 years of that same cohort. So then we perform above the state. So the state is orange, EO Smith is blue. This is a moving target, and it is very much dependent upon the number of students that we have in a cohort who go on to our transition program. It is a point of contention that we have with the state. I argued it when I was in Windsor Locks. Lou argues it yearly with the powers that be, with the state of Connecticut, around the fact that our students who go into the transition program have completed their program here successfully, but we can't award them their diploma. Because if we did, they then would not be entitled to the services that we provide them in their transition program. So this is one of those things where, we know that we have those students still with us. And they're doing good work, and our folks are doing good work with them. So when we see these kind of ebbs and flows of that graduation rate, there's a story with every percentage point.
Gosh,
there's a human.
This is like not new.
Yeah.
It's not like the state hasn't been part of this for 20 years.
Right. And it's not like they haven't been told or even that they've been kindly reminded that it's discriminatory. So that we will continue to kind of fight that fight.
If they were going to a transition program somewhere else, if we didn't have it in-house, would it be counted differently or would it be counted the same either way?
My understanding is, and I would have to check on it, but my understanding is that it would be counted differently because they would be counted in the, because when we take in someone from another program, then they're ours also. So that counts too.
Okay, that's what I kind of thought would be the case.
Except if they were our student and we chose to place them in another transition program, they're still ours.
Okay.
So if they move or families pull them out of the program, they're not ours anymore, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that someone's needs through a PPT may be determined differently. And those kids go to someplace outside of our district, but they're still ours and they still count.
Right. If they earn our diploma, right. Because in Windsor Locks, I've gone to other programs, even though we had our transition program. Right. I did go to other programs to award our diploma to students. If they get our diploma, then they would count on our numbers. Okay. But there were students who did transfer into our program and for whatever reason. And there are coding issues too, and we've talked about that. We're looking into that as well because there are some districts that we wonder how the coding happens. So
maybe they know something we know.
Well, we thought we are really followed with your numbers here. The graduation 6-year adjusted cohort graduation rate reflect the 9th graders who graduated within 6 years. And so this also is a little bit of a reflection of a change in the rules. So now we have our students until they're 22. So in looking at these numbers,
Normally, these numbers would actually be a little bit higher, but now we've got our students for an extra, sometimes a little more than a year. So that's impacted that number as well. So again, when we take a look at our graduation rate, we get the number from the state. We're looking at all of our students and we're looking at their stories and where are they and why. Again, every percentage point has a child behind it and has a story behind it. And so look very closely at that when it comes to those numbers. I think as a district that has a transition program, coming from a district that had a transition program, it's a commitment to knowing that you're doing the right thing for your students. We're keeping them in our district. They are, we're providing them the education that they need to have, the experiences that they need to have in the community that they're going to live and grow, and they're going to live here, and they're going to get to know the folks within their community. We don't want to send them to West Hartford or Farmington or to a district that is an hour and a half away. Your kind of post-secondary entrance targets, so our number of students who are in the graduating class enrolled in 2 or 4 year college programs. And again, we saw some dips right after COVID, almost a little bit stronger than state dips, but those numbers have increased pretty significantly over the past couple of years. And then physical fitness. This is a fun story. Physical fitness is the percentage of students meeting or exceeding the health and fitness zone standard. I think the algorithm for how they figure all of this out is so interesting, and I will give you the packet if you want to read how it works. It's connected to anticipated participation, as well as the number of students who are meeting all 4 categories of the physical fitness test. Part of our challenge at EO is that the PE program was designed to engage students in lifelong fitness. And so prior to me getting here, there was a lot of work that went into designing student choice and opportunities for kids to really engage in a physical fitness program that they were going to take beyond the walls of EO. And our PE staff are passionate about it. Unfortunately, the state of Connecticut did not catch up with that, at least initially, and thank goodness they eventually did. So the cohort of students that were being assessed that were taking PE before they were able to go off and take electives was not the cohort that the state was measuring. So 9th graders all took PE. Those were the students who were being assessed for the physical fitness test. The cohort that the state originally was measuring were the 10th grade cohort. So no matter what, your denominator was the number of kids in the 10th grade class. So some years it could work out for us if the class was smaller than the freshman class. Didn't work out for us that way. So there's been a concerted effort on a lot of on our teachers, number one. Also, the state has changed it. So now they actually, the cohort that you choose to measure is the cohort that they allow you to then choose to measure. Also, the PE department has done a lot of work with streamlining and creating formative assessments for the fitness test so that students have an opportunity to practice, that it's something that's built into their curriculum now. And it's something that every PE teacher is calibrated with. So this is not an anomaly. And the commitment to that number continuing to go up, because we know that our kids are physically fit based on the pure number of students who are involved in sports and who, we know that they're physically fit. So just having a real solid plan and now being more in alignment with the state, how that works is reaping its full rewards. But we had been up and down really for years, even prior to COVID. But I think that we have a physical fitness program right now that is really something I'm proud of based on the number of students who choose to participate in PE when they don't have to.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's gonna sound somewhat ridiculous, but is there any thought given to what time of day the testing happens? Like, is it during their PE block that might be in the morning, might be in the middle? Or is it like after school?
It's during their PE class.
Okay, so if they have PE like first thing in the morning, then they have to run and get gross. I was the child who refused to do that because then I'd be gross all day. That's probably affecting our numbers
It could be for participation.
because I would refuse outright. I'm like, I'm not, there's no time to shower. There's no change of clothes. Like, I'm not going to be gross at 7 a.m. So if that's happening to some of the, but it could really be drastically affecting the numbers.
I think that's good.
And as someone who was always physically fit, but my numbers always failed because I refused.
And that's the piece. So when we look at the part, and we'll talk a little bit too, when at the very like the end slide, we talk a little bit about participation in general. So there's the participation piece and then there's the performance piece, right? So, you know, as we look at, we get deeper into the data, you'll hear more about the details when Earl Hendershon, who's the department head for PE, and he'll talk about the work that they've done, which has been really amazing. He has embraced it. But it's a good point. You know, what variables are they looking at that impact students' willingness to engage? Either in the PACER or you know, whatever it is that they're being asked to do.
Yeah. Do you have any sense of what happened in 22, 23, 23, 24? With that drop? Is it one of those anomalies where we have to judge it based off of the current numbers, or because that's a very steep drop. And I know there's a drop in 21, 22 for the state, but if they sort of flatlined.
There were a couple of variables there. So that was the 9th grade, 10th grade issue. And then it was also there were students who didn't get PEs. So there were students who were scheduled into health, but they didn't get a PE class, so they weren't tested. So our participation number was low. And the PE department didn't recognize that. And so now that's something that they collaborate with with the counseling department on. So they know they have a list of students that they know are either just in a health class or were not scheduled, are not our 9th graders who just didn't get it this year.
Yeah.
They know they're gonna have to forward and assess.
And do you get a sense that other other towns, like other schools in the state didn't have that? Like, where are we compared to others?
Well, it depends on the school you look at. Schools do a lot of different things. We can have an off-the-record conversation about that later.
Are you saying some of this data is based on 9th graders that tested versus the number of 10th graders?
So a couple of years ago, so this was, I want to say this was 9th graders.
Why would we even include that? Why wouldn't we just put 9th and 9th if that's what we're testing? It's not even relevant data. If you
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So why would we even have it on there?
So we're allowed, according to the state, we're allowed to choose the cohort that we want to choose. What they initially didn't say back here was that if you chose.
I wouldn't even put it on a chart though. Why would you put that number? It doesn't really exist.
Because it was our data. Well, so that was our data. Even though the denominator, you're not wrong. Even though the denominator was not the same cohort, that's our same, we have the same argument. It didn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't the denominator be the actual tested cohort? You are 100% right, Tony. Oh, yeah. And they did change it. So, and when I did call the state and I complained, and apparently other folks did too. Arts access is the number of percentage of students in grade 9 to 12 participating in at least one dance, theater, music, visual art, or media arts course in the school. This is something where traditionally, I don't know way back when, but traditionally we are above the state. And our numbers are above our goal for that. And I think, again, it's a credit to our arts department. The number of students who choose to participate in theater, in the fine arts, in the musical arts, is amazing. I think it's definitely a credit to what they do.
And then our accountability score is kind of the culmination of, it's that number at the end that gives us our grade, so to speak. And again, we're generally above the state. Our number has dipped down since its high points in 20, I'm gonna mess that up. There's Hasana, when I made her, 2019, 20. And it's on its way back up, so we're about 81 this year. We're at 81 this year, which would normally put us into a 2. We're going to talk about why we're not 2 in just a second. There's other things that we look at. When you look at the full report, this would be at the bottom of the report that you will look at for any given year. So these show the gaps. So ELA performance index gaps looks at the difference between your non-high need students and your high need students. And they compare it to the gap of the same from the state. And if your gap is higher than the state gap, then you would have a gap outlier. So what's great news for us is that we don't have any gap outliers. It's really great news. Here's the challenge. We still have some gaps, and they're considerable gaps. So those gaps, that's something that as we take a look at our students who are high need students, and as we look at data, and there's data that we'll be sharing with you at the retreat for a variety of different demographics. These need to be smaller. We need to shrink those gaps, even though according to the state, we're doing just fine. The other piece in looking at is our participation. So the state expects there to be 95% participation in all of our assessments. Renee Nigerian busts her tail every year to get 95% or more participation on our assessments. We missed science high needs by 6 of a point. Because of that, we dropped from a 2 to a 3. So if you miss participation or if you have a gap outlier, they automatically drop your rating from one level to another. So that is the explanation for that piece. And honestly, that difference is one student who would not sit for the test. So our trends for this year, 15 of 16 of our indicators showed positive growth. 2 of the 16 indicators showed a slight decrease. The next gen science, high, all students and high needs. But they did perform above the state. So I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Our 6-year graduation rate for high needs showed a decrease based on an increase in the age limit for the transition program I mentioned earlier. We had an overall increase for our accountability score. We had no significant gaps between our high needs and all students in comparison to the state. And our one participation standard next gen science test for high needs, we didn't hit that 95%. So those are some things that we'll need to continue to work on among other things. So those are the 4 categories. So if you're looking at how that breaks down, we're at 81. So we should have been a 2. They knocked us down for that participation. So as we look at our district goal, where our system and our actions meet. Our goal, you guys have seen this a bunch of times, achieving equity through maximizing participation, performance, and experiences. We're committed to the belief that we can and will teach every student to high levels. And then support teachers in their professional development, social and emotional learning, mastery-based learning, and a student-centered approach in order for every student to thrive. Our directors have been showing you our iReady data. We talk about that 30% in students who are not reading at grade level. And we noticed that when we look at our ELA scores, when we look at our math scores, and even our science scores, we're looking at 35% of our kids who aren't quite there yet. So there's some similarity there. Our raw data is actually backed up by our more specific disparities.
And when we talk about every kid, I've said this in other meetings, we can win Blue Ribbon Awards with 65 to 70% of our kids achieving at proficient or better. But 35% of our kids they're not throwaway kids. EO Smith doesn't have throwaway kids. We do not have kids that we just cannot attend to. Every student deserves the opportunity, deserves obstacles to be moved out of their way so that they can be successful. So that's what we look at. That's what you're hearing from our directors. That's what our teachers are trying to do on a daily basis. Taking a look at, and Greg, I think your question that you asked earlier was a really good one around, so, what are we doing with these, what do we do with these groups of kids? And for some kids, it's, you've got a kid in a class who's one student contributing to the 30 to 35%. And, in a class, you've got a student who's underperforming, and what are we doing to get to know that student, know what their needs are, and how are we meeting them where they are to get them to where they need to go? And it's no simple or easy task for our educators. Next steps, accountability for the achievement of every student, from our school improvement plan, our district improvement plan, and our Board of Ed goals. I shared that with you at the last meeting. We'll talk about that again at our retreat. We have our measurable assessments. We have our SAT, our next gen science standards, our AP assessments, our CTE pathways, the physical fitness tests. We've gone through all of these, the participation, our post-secondary readiness, and then the observable pieces, and that also connect to the measurable, our identity formed and standards aligned curriculum. You heard Megan talk about that. As we look at our curriculum, we have to have we have to be aligned with the standards, what the assessments are testing. So if we're teaching curriculum that isn't aligned with standards, then it's not going to be a big surprise when our achievement on those assessments are not what we want them to be. And we're starting to see that in some cases, that's part of the challenge. Student ownership, accountability, and agency. We have to help kids. You see students that presented tonight, they've taken agency to the nth degree. They own their learning and they're bringing it to their peers. And encouraging them. I got to watch those two young ladies present to the freshmen. What we saw them present today and how they interacted and created a culture of belonging within that Panther experience with the freshmen is amazing. That's something that, is something that we do every kid, every classroom. That has to happen every day. Meaningful student-to-student discourse, getting them to talk to each other and share with each other. Vision of the graduate standards, how are we focusing on those skills that we saw implemented again? We're seeing those skills implemented when you listen to students who are so articulate and they're able to communicate and get up here fearlessly and present. And then our tiered systems of intervention. When they talk about the tier one, that's the classroom instruction piece. Are we seeing in our classroom, we're looking at the data, so we're seeing where those gaps are. Are we adjusting our instruction based on what the data is telling us? And then are we responding in real time when we see that a student, for whatever reason, isn't responding to the instruction in the way that we put it forward, even with our best efforts and how we respond to that? And send the message that we know that they can learn. Because as soon as the kids get a message that we don't believe in them, they're going to shut down. They won't believe in themselves either. Tier 2 interventions, you heard a lot about student center, peer tutoring, our academic study halls, all of those pieces that come together to support teachers and supporting kids in getting what they need to get the opportunity to remove some of those obstacles to learning. And then the social and emotional learning piece. I love that the young ladies presented today and re-emphasized or emphasized the importance of belonging. Not just belonging amongst peers, but feeling like they belong in a classroom, feeling like they belong in an honors class, in an ag class, in an AP class, and that if they're taking a risk, if they're stretching, they believe that that the teacher, they believe the administrator is going to listen to them. They believe that the teacher is going to do everything that they can to support them in doing the work they need to do to get them to achieve it. All comes back to the instructional core, probably something you've seen 1,000 times when we talk about, what it all comes back down to. So as we look at the instructional core, it's content, curriculum aligned with standards. Are those standards taught and assessed? So our standards are part of our unit guides. Our curricular standards are our learning targets, aligned with standards that flow into our formative assessments, that flow into our summative assessments. And kids should always know where they are, where they were, and where they're going in their learning. When they know that, they can own it, they can take charge of it, and they can be successful in it. Teacher knowledge and skills. How do we help them recognize what kids need and then support them through student-centered learning? What's the professional development that they really need to help support them in that? We have super talented teachers here. There are people who have been doing this work for a really, really long time. They're very skilled at it. PD that we've had over the past few years have been them sharing some of those strategies that they have had that have been successful. We need to continue that. And we also need to bring in new strategies that will help kind of elevate the level of engagement with them. And then student engagement, student belonging, ownership, agency. Do I know what I'm learning and why? And how do we that into the tasks that will actually ask the students to. And then just, these are the intervention pieces of the house, the unit guides, all of those pieces that we just talked about. And we're going to talk about them at a retreat because you've been listening an awful lot today. So following up on data, student performance, school and district improvement plan aligned with board goals. And then what's the budgeting landscape? Where does that all fit in? I love the fact that they brought up the idea of, it's been dialogue that we've had a long time about, the after school buses. We've talked about it with staff. It was a big concern. It is a big concern of ours because students who don't have transportation don't have that opportunity. But it is that leverage of funding. And that's probably going to be our biggest obstacle over the next few years of how are we leveraging our resources to make sure that all of this going to make sure our kids have everything they need to thrive.
Yeah, I got a few things. The structure, the accountability structure, is that a state of Connecticut or a national program relative to measurement data?
State of Connecticut is pretty specific, but every state has their own accountability structure. The assessments are different.
Okay. This is a state of Connecticut.
This is a state of Connecticut structure, yeah.
What are the implications of the accountability scores relative to anything, right? Financial, other.
If they're really low, you can be classified as a school in need of improvement. I think they just got rid of the alliance districts. They had those for a while. We're the 30 lowest performing districts in the state. Got a lot of money from the state for a lot of years. So that is, and actually the federal government just did away with the Live program. So that doesn't exist anymore with the state.
So the current stated use of it is simply self-monitoring. Not that I'm minimizing that, but that's the limit of its application at this point.
They can't hurt us.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think, and really it is, from our perspective, from my perspective, it's something that it's that broad base.
No, I don't mean to minimize it, more just understanding the.
No, and I don't take it that way at all.
Yeah.
I think it is it's the information that you got from Steph and that you got from Megan today. Those are the actionable pieces of data. The challenge with this data is that it's not actionable by itself. Maybe the physical fitness test, some of it shows us like areas where we can tighten things up. And broadly, we can make some decisions that, move us in the right direction and where to look deeper into figuring out what's going right and what's going wrong. But it's the more specific data that you're going to be getting from directors. Next Gen Science, you can get really specific into the different areas of the Next Gen Science assessment, like what specific topics are we underperforming in, so that we know where to beef up our instruction. So it can get more specific, but this data in and of itself, to your point, is not as useful.
Well, I think actionable is a contextual thing, right? Meaning at the board level, it's actionable, meaning that's about, we're not drilling 3 levels down into the third chapter of yada yada, right? That's not our role, right? So it's not actionable for someone doing that, right? But we got to kind of stay a little bit higher level in our assessment. So I contest the fact that it's not actionable for our purposes. I do have a lot of thoughts on the way the data is presented for us to be able to use it. I'll get together with you on. And then the other question I had, more of a suggestion actually, relative to that last budget landscape item. I'd encourage us to have a discussion not only on, that slide you were on before. On not just on 26, 27, but maybe we can, given it's a treat, maybe expand that out a little bit relative to longer term budget sort of trends and things versus just the same to, next school year kind of look. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to have some broader discussions on budget in the context of the retreat.
And I think we're going to have to when it comes to some of the longer range pieces. So like summer athletic training. So that funding that we use is not renewable.
Sure.
So, that was funding that took years to build up. And so we have to think about how we're going to continue to fund that program as a board. So that's not just a 1-year fix. That's like something that we're
On enrollment, budget's going up, $35 million HVAC. Yeah, there's all kinds of sort of bigger picture stuff that we have to think about outside the context of our next year. So, thanks.
Well, I think it was good. I'm sorry. I just jumped in. I think it was good to get the Sharon. I was at the meeting last month, but Sharon circulated that document that actually showed what our goals were and our progress, or what the board goals were. And definitely the budgeting piece over an expanded period of time was something we really need to look at and know where we're going because of those things. So,
Kathleen, you had a question?
Oh, it was just a really quick. This was a terrific learning opportunity. I'm really looking forward to the retreat, and thank you so much. This was, allowed me to kind of start to understand some of the issues. But I was just curious with the graphs, and maybe this goes to your question about how to actually represent it. Are these means for Connecticut? Is that like a mean or an average? Like this orange line that kind of persists throughout when you talk about like kind of the Connecticut trends.
So that is their index number.
Okay.
That is
thank you.
So that's their index number.
Okay. Thanks.
Did you have?
Yeah, no, I sort of agreeing with Tim's point. I think this is very, very helpful data for us, just getting a broad overview of where we're at. And thank you for breaking it down. I appreciate having like sort of the raw data to sort through, but then also the graphs are obviously very helpful. I know what slide is it on? This slide with the rankings. It was 1, 2, 3. I lost it. Oh wait, here it is. It's towards the end. It's right before the belief systems.
Okay.
You said our value index is 81.
Yeah.
So we would be in the 2 range?
Yeah.
Okay.
We should be a 2.
It's a statistical artifact that has forced us down.
Because of participation growth.
Okay, it's because we didn't meet all the metrics that we.
It's because we didn't meet the participation metric for that one.
94.4 the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so where do we get the 81 score from?
The 81 score is a compilation of all of those indices.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are, and I thought it was I might have. If it's anyone, I anticipated that maybe ours was
something like that. I don't know whether they were not, but
it was 81 is this one, right?
yeah, it's the tail end of that graph. Yeah.
Right. So it's however the accountability scores
mashup of the others.
So this
So that's
is,
the how.
this you have all of the algorithms and all of the calculations that gets you into all that fun stuff.
I will send you a message.
Okay, yes, I'm gonna give this one, somebody who likes the trend.
Oh, come on, I asked the question.
I know.
Years ago?
No, but Arthur has actually been asking for accountability data for a while. So I was super excited to get to present it from a broad view.
Thank you.
And from the perspective of just for folks who have not been exposed to it before, to just get like a base level understanding of what this is. Knowing that if you ask me how these are all calculated, I'm going to need to read through that booklet again because it is really, really convoluted in a lot of ways. But and if anybody wants to see, and actually I did make a copy of this year's version. This will make a little more sense for you too. That I did make copies of this as well. This is this year's. Information that shows our number at the bottom.
Yep.
There's a lot more information than what I put in my chart because it would have been way smaller. This is what you get when you go on EdSite in all your spare time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this is very helpful.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sharon, would you, would you put aside some of the things that you gave out tonight? Because, you can just leave them maybe with Jill or something. I will probably see you on I'll see you on the 12th. So, but I would like to have what we got handed out, if you have it.
Question. This is sort of a technical question or just, I was just wondering, so this is data that's presented to the state or to the reason I'm asking is because I was just curious if you were, it was actually a question I had, I didn't want to stop you, but it was coding about the things where like it dropped because of coding. And I was just curious if you want to fix that or correct that, will it just be a spike or can you, it's not like a retroactive.
Yeah, we can't go back and fix it, but they pulled data from our student data system.
I see.
So like the coding for all of our classes. So I was telling Jill, we in Windsor Locks in our Divine Wisdom years ago thought that because so many kids were taking our CTE classes. And so our counseling director made it a year-long class because it was a couple of them. They made it a year-long classes so that they were taking them sequentially anyway. But what that ended up doing was decreasing our score. Because then kids who were getting credit for taking 2 sequential CTE classes now were not. So we had made them year-long. So it ended up being a huge issue. We had them having to go back to semesterizing the classes because it seemed really silly, but it ended up being a challenge. But we couldn't go back to fix that dip. We had already done it because they pulled it out of the system.
Thank you so much. This is all brilliant.
It's a great question.
I'm sorry.
One more?
Yes. Just based off the document that you just gave us, so the state percent points earned include 2A through 4A?
Yep.
So those are included in the metrics for the 71.8, but they're not for the district.
Because we don't have
any of those metrics.
Yeah, we don't have growth because we don't have, that's for like grades 3 through 8 where they give the S back.
And that's what you were referring to. Those are the elementary standards. Okay. And so the grading is averaged out for all of these things. Okay. Thank you. It's very helpful. Yeah.
You do. All right.
Okay, all right. Then nobody was here now. All right, then we're close to the end. Yeah. Would any of the public out there like to speak? So here. They don't like us.
They're dead.
Hearing none, we have an opportunity for us to make one final comment before we move to adjourn. Anybody, a final comment they'd like to make?
I have a question. We're bringing this back. We're not doing this right now.
You either do it right now or you make sure that you email me or email Jill or so that we can hear from everybody about what your preferences might be. Typically, board members are on 2 to 3 committees. So we should be looking at 2 to 3.
Decker, do you want me to have them email me?
Yeah.
And then I'll put it together.
Yeah, that would be great if you would do that.
All right.
Okay, I'll email you, Jill.
Thanks, Sarah.
That would be great. And if any questions about any of them, feel free to contact any of us. Directly. Here's the phones. All right. Any other comments for the good of the whole? For the individual? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Janice moves. You second? All right. I've been wanting to get this.